Hi, everyone. I'm Ilona Varo. Thank you for joining me in the Thrive Through the Holidays podcast. I'm here with my friend Amber, and we're going to be chatting about holidays, holiday stress, and how to incorporate strategies and wisdom from like the family constellations, the feminine divine, just kind of like harnessing your own power. If you can give us a little intro of your work, and then we'll dive right in.
Sure. My name is Amber Mahoney, and I am a divine feminine, I guess you could call me a guide. I'm also a systemic family constellations facilitator, and I'm an integrated somatic trauma practitioner. So
Amazing.
that's kind of my background.
Yeah. So you pull from a lot of different philosophies and orientations, which is my favorite thing. I'm so not a purist. So I
Yes.
love to kind of pull from all different things. Can you give us a little breakdown on what divine feminine means, what family constellation is? I know that that might be kind of new concepts to people that aren't in this work.
Yeah, absolutely. So my relationship with the divine feminine, it's the most authentic expression of self in our feminine form. So it's all about like how do we show up in the world, in our power, in our full presence, in our vulnerability. Like that ability to really tune in to what our inner calling is calling forward, I guess, right? In its purest form, like letting that kind of wild abandonment rise and be present in every day. And that it's while it is that is connected to something greater than us, it's a knowing that we all have, that we all share, that we're all connected through this gorgeous divine feminine energy that we all carry.
Beautiful.
So that's that piece.
Uh-huh.
Family constellations. So family constellations is a soul level type healing modality. It looks at correcting traumas, generational traumas, past wounds through a quantum field. That might sound kind of crazy and really out there, but it's all dealing with the space of truth. So when soul recognizes truth, energy starts to flow. We get stuck in patterns, we get stuck in behaviors because there is stagnancy, because there is a lack of love and truth flowing. And that can happen oftentimes when there are traumas experienced, either if some of them can be really big, like a death in the family, some of them can be really small, just that interrupted movement of not feeling seen and heard. But until these traumas are addressed, they tend to create patterns in our lives that play out in present day in ways that we might not even understand. It might be in our subconscious. It might be coming through in relationships. And it might not even be yours, which is the craziest thing, right? This might be a pattern that came from your grandmother. This might be something from an ancestor way back in the day that like has actually been coming through and creating patterns throughout your family history that we can actually rectify in present day and start healing that will ripple through the generations by addressing what is,
Amazing.
by bringing truth to what is, by bringing light to what was once dark. So,
Amazing.
yeah.
I love that. I mean, you hit on so many words that are just huge values of mine, authenticity and soul and truth and coming back into yourself. I think all of those things are just so powerful and important in the healing field. What are things that you see come forward in your clients during this holiday season? Because it can be incredibly triggering. Are there specific patterns that you see kind of show up and play out?
I see like the people pleasing, right?
Mm.
Like trying to show up and be everything to everyone when we get, especially when it comes to family or family friends that, like people that we have history with and we have a way of being or we're used to behaving in a certain way. We will often abandon ourselves, our present day selves, the self that we're actually probably pretty proud of, that we've done a lot of work on to get here and feel like pretty good in here. When we get around older relationships, more established relationships, we have a tendency to abandon ourselves in order to belong to a system that once served us, but maybe doesn't serve us any longer.
Mhm.
So we'll say yes to too much, we'll agree to too much, we'll abandon ourselves, we will let ourselves go in a way that we might not typically if it weren't for these special occasions.
Mm. And so what are things to keep an eye out for? What are little red flags that we know we're veering off course?
Yeah, it's like when you say yes, is it a whole body yes? Like, are you when you're like when mom calls and it's like, "Hey, can you come to this 10th thing for, so and so and so and so is coming into town?" And it's like, are you actually is that are you honoring your yes or are you not honoring your no? Like, know your limits. And I feel like so oftentimes we'll see people just like let go of all their boundaries and forego any limits and kind of sacrifice themselves. So where is it where you are feeling that impulse to like, maybe I might need to take a break, or maybe
Mhm.
I can't go the whole time. Maybe I need to sit this one out, or I can just call them and explain, like I have a little bit too much on my plate.
Mhm. Yeah. That would require the ability to set a boundary and to know your limit and to advocate for your own needs, which are
Yeah.
all very difficult things, especially for women, especially during this time of year.
Yeah, I feel like the patterning too, when we get in with our families, we get triggered right back into like ways of behaving, ways of being. And we can see that like it's hard sometimes to show up in a way that you might not feel like that might not be received well, even though it's for your highest best good.
Yeah,
And the truth is like when it's for your highest best good, it's actually going to serve everyone else as
yeah,
well.
yeah, definitely. I feel like that's a hard lesson for people pleasers to be able to. I think they understand it conceptually, but then to put it into practice, it's very challenging.
Yeah, and that's what we really see like when you work through family constellation stuff is when you are actually in line with your soul and your calling and your truth and your yes and all that stuff, it will have a positive effect. Maybe not in that immediate moment, that immediate change might be uncomfortable, but the actual result of that, when you're standing in your power, when you're not victim, when you're honoring yourself, everyone else feels
Yeah,
that positive vibration. And that's the thing too with the divine feminine, like she honors herself and she
yeah,
honors her truth,
yeah,
right? Unapologetically with love. This is not
yeah.
a thing against, this is for,
Yeah, definitely.
you
And I
know.
know that in previous conversations, we've talked so much about, self-sacrificing and how that really takes a toll on the physical body, showing up as illness or chronic conditions. And so that's also even more of a reason of why we need to do this work is because even if it starts out as an emotional discomfort, it absolutely can lead to physical illness if this pattern continues for too long.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we see that a lot actually in family constellations is that there are illnesses that present in present day that are attached to unhealed traumas from
Yeah,
the past.
yeah,
And we will have an inkling, but we don't know how to answer that call. We don't know how to address it. We don't even sometimes know where it's coming from.
yeah. Can you talk a little bit more about maybe the somatic side? You mentioned, that full body yes. And I know a lot of people that I work with, there's always this question of like, how do I know? Because I might think, but then there's this battle. I don't know what to trust. I don't know what to listen to, what to look out for. Can you talk a little bit more about like how to tap into and be able to communicate with our bodies? And yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. I love that question. It's really about figuring out how can you get into here, right? How do we get in and really get in touch? Because the battle of the mind, the shoulds, the shouldn'ts, the all of that stuff will never cease, right? There's never a good solution. So one of the things that I love to do is just do like a three breath, what I call a three breath inquiry. So it's grounding into three breaths. And so with each breath, you're arriving more deeply. And so it's that first breath of just like, okay, I'm calling myself into presence. With second breath, you're calling yourself into your heart. And in third breath, you're like really coming into union and like settling into the body. and like feeling in, like, where are you holding tension? How, what is coming up even in that stillness? And so once you're in that place, then ask yourself the question. Ask that question, that's that question that you were like, I'm not sure. It's like, no, ask yourself from that really centered, grounded place and see what comes up in the body. Where do you feel it? Is it feel like something more surface? Is it feel like it's something really rooted deep in your gut? And then spend some time with that feeling. Is that an old feeling? Is that from childhood? Is that you speaking now? Or is that a younger part of you that actually just needs to be heard in this moment? If you could meet that part of yourself, if you could be with that part of yourself.
Hmm.
So the first part is just creating space for that inquiry to even happen in our busy, like crazy, chaotic lives. And we're constantly trying to make decisions, right, on the fly. And everybody wants to know right now. It's like, no, give me, I just need 3 breaths, right? It can take you all of 2 minutes, 5 minutes. You can do it in the car, right? It doesn't need to be some massive meditation, but
Right.
it's just finding that place to get into stillness
Yeah.
and get curious, right? Get curious about the sensations that are present
Yeah.
and call them forward.
Yeah.
Call them forward and speak to them.
Yeah. And that's a skill I want to remind people. It's not something you're going to get right the first time. It's something
No,
that needs to be practiced. It's a language that you're developing to be able to communicate with that inner wisdom, intuition, wise mind, spirit, whatever you want to call it. But it is a practice and a skill that needs to be repeated until we feel more comfortable with it. And it's funny, I think I don't follow astrology at all, but I something popped up on one of my feeds and it said that we're going into Mercury retrograde or some sort of retrograde,
we're
and
there
that
now. Yeah,
we're here now, yeah. And
yeah.
so it was saying, in order to like make decisions, in order to make those fast decisions, you have to slow down. Like there is, in order to speed up, you have to slow down, something along those lines. Like if you want to get somewhere fast, slow down. It's kind of very
Counterintuitive.
yes, very counterintuitive, but that's, as you were talking, that's kind of what I was thinking about is like, yeah, no one is too busy to stop and take 3 breaths and connect to yourself. And guaranteed, if you think you're busy, you're checking out and dissociating. You're scrolling, you're, disconnecting, detaching, avoiding in other ways. So the practice of coming into your body, it's not a question you're asking here. It's a question, like you said, you're asking like neck down.
Yep.
And that is the practice that we need to work on.
Yeah, I think you said it. It's developing a practice and a relationship, right? With this instrument. It has all the answers. But like you're saying, we are so attuned to distracting, deflecting, dissociating. That's become our norm.
Yeah.
So it feels really sticky and weird and uncomfortable when we first start coming home to this. But it is, I feel like that 3 breaths is like literally over Thanksgiving. I went outside there a couple times. I'm like, I just need a moment. And so I'm
Yeah.
just gonna come outside and I'm gonna take my 3 breaths. And then I got totally centered back and I was able to go back in and I was
Yeah.
good, you know?
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah.
Is there a way that you think we can kind of reframe the holiday season instead of like stress and anxiety? Is there a way to use the holiday season as an opportunity to practice, growth and healing and connection and things like that?
Absolutely. It's just, are you willing to your point, slow down? Are you willing? I think it's a beautiful time to actually observe yourself and observe your family patterns and see what's alive. And what we learn in family constellations and through that work is that like so often our traumas create enmeshments within the family. And when we're enmeshed, we aren't separate. And if we're not separate, then we can't really love. Love happens when we are separate. That's when relationship and bond actually like takes place. This isn't bonded. This is enmeshed and they're
Mm,
different. And we don't know that, we don't trust that. But being able to separate and have healthy relationship, being your own person, letting them be their own person, all of a sudden, this really beautiful dynamic can show up between two groups. That tension that you have with mom because you're so enmeshed. You're so caught in a pattern. We're so caught in our traumas that we can't really see them and we can't really see ourselves outside of them. So it's like during this time to be able to take that moment and step back. Can you recognize a pattern? Can you really like see them for who they are outside of the idea of mom or the
Yeah.
mom that you've come to know,
Yeah.
right? And can you
How they're
hold
triggering you.
yeah. Yeah, it's like, can you really hold yourself and not judge, right? Watching the judging, like really using this time to just be compassionate and loving and grateful, right? So much we can have practice so much gratitude in this time and this opportunity of being together, of celebrating. Yeah, I don't think it has to be stressful. And I think it doesn't have to be stressful because if you start really taking care of yourself, then it can be just this really beautiful time where we're choosing to be together,
Yeah.
where we're honoring ourselves and going into this into these events, into these days, into these times with like a really clear, open heart,
Mhm.
knowing that we have ourselves and we have space for them too.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Are there any qualities as you were talking, I was thinking like observation, witnessing, separation, vulnerability. Like, are there other qualities that you think we can practice embracing during this time?
Yeah, I think being curious, right? Like coming in with that kind of childhood beginner's mind, like how could I experience this differently? Like, is it, we have ingrained patterns and ways of being oftentimes with family, like I said, and close friends, but can I get curious? Can I be the watcher? Can I be the observer? Can I come at this in a way that feels more supportive to me? How could I make this even more supportive of a time where maybe I haven't felt seen or heard? How can I make some of those things happen possibly?
Mhm. Yeah, I love that word curiosity. It's just definitely part of my value system as well.
Yeah.
And it helps shift perspective. Can I see it differently? What do I need in this moment? Just like, yeah, like you said, getting curious really helps create a shift if you're feeling stuck.
Yeah. Yeah. Because so many times we're so sure, right? And we're already
Mm,
ready in how we're going to respond and all that. Like, can we just get still and can we get a little curious? Can we listen? Can we really listen? Listen to hear, not to respond.
yes, yes, that is definitely one of my favorite sayings. Yeah. Listen to hear instead of like waiting to respond.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that. Are there any rituals or practices that you really like to incorporate during this season?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing is like figuring out how to just stay in self-care and figuring out like one of my favorite things that I do is morning pages where I just am kind of doing a brain dump in the first thing in the morning, nothing I'm attached to. Um, my biggest thing is just continuing to make sure that I maintain my sacred space. What it is that like I can stay filled up, what it is that like I that feeds me, that like so I'm still taking care of myself so that I can take care of others.
Mhm.
And when you're in the moment, like I think that yeah, like I said, I practice that three breath little inquiry, when if I'm in something that feels like a lot, I will that's a great little ritual slash practice that I have. And then gratitude. I love ending the day with gratitude, writing down three things that I'm so grateful for and three things that went well, you
Mhm.
know.
Yeah. And I think that's also perspective shift as well, because it's so easy to maybe speak from the emotion of the moment, like today sucked or whatever. But then if you stop and say, okay, no, I need to identify three things that I can find gratitude in, then that like immediately shifts your thinking, shifts your emotional state, all of that.
Yeah,
Awesome.
important.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for giving us a little overview of how to take care of ourselves during the holiday season from the lens of family constellations and the feminine divine, and really advocating for truth and authenticity and self-care. Very, very important, especially for women. How can people find you? I know you have a community here in Los Angeles.
Yeah, yeah, we have so you can find us on our company is Divinus Lux. It's divinuslvx.com. So that's the website. We have a women's community. We meet monthly to support each other through all of this kind of stuff. Um, and and then we do constellations. If people are interested in that, we have coaching, we have all different kinds of stuff. So we're on Instagram, we're I got our website. Um, yeah, I think that those are probably the best two things.
Perfect. Okay, amazing. Well, thank you again so much. I really appreciate your time and wisdom and love. I feel the love through the screen. It's just you have a beautiful energy to share. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you for the opportunity to come and share. I really love this time together. So thank you so
Absolutely.
much.
All right, take care.